What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show. I'm Josh Morris. Joining me is Stacy Talich and also Matt Paranormal Consultant, as he's known. So tonight, I'm excited. We got three minds here, and we're going to be talking about understanding paranormal and paranormal like investigation methods. So this video really is for those of you that really want to understand from just different levels paranormal, and also maybe how you want to get involved in investigating. What levels of investigation would you like to get involved in? Whether it's just maybe the casual person trying out a little bit, wanting to believe in something maybe, versus all the way to getting involved in a team and doing some diehard paranormal research. So we're going to get started. We're going to kick this off. Guys, how are you doing? Let's start with Matt, since you haven't been on in a while. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Good. I appreciate the invite. My show's been doing really well. Lot bigger audience. Got a lot of things planned for this year. A lot of exciting investigations, live investigations, different shows. So everything's been going really good. Real good.
Awesome. And Stacy, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing good. I'm dealing with the weather like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, who's peeking over your shoulder?
That is my wife and the other part of Paranormal Consultant, Mackenzie. She wants to listen.
That's fine. It's just, one eyeball. I didn't quite sure.
Right. So, and then Stacy, we're for those of you that might be keeping up, we're reaching toward the end of retrograde, right?
Oh, yes. Today's actually the first. We actually might be in it now, or Mercury went straight. So everything should be returning back to normal as far as, communications and car breakdowns and things of that sort. I haven't checked on the actual time when it was supposed to take place, but today at some point it was supposed to go straight. So moving forward, no more Mercury retrograde for at least 90 days. So
good. And Facebook user says, "Hey, now again, I don't have your who you are, so you may want to type your name in there if you want me to give you a shout out. But hey, right back." So, guys, let's get started. I want to dive into this by saying, so let's break down some of the paranormal. Like, what does it mean? I'm going to ask you guys, each of you, what does it mean for you? What does paranormal mean? Like, what's your definition? Because by definition, it really kind of just means anything above normal, right? Anything kind of out there. But what does it really mean to you? Matt, let's start with you.
Well, basic definition for me is anything that is outside of normality. So kind of the same thing. Anything like I use the example, you're walking down the street and ET, comes over and asks you for a light. That's not normal. That's obviously an extreme, but anything that you can't debunk, anything outside of normal to me is paranormal. You just break it down, paranormal. It's a simple for me.
All right, pretty definitive on that. Stacy, what about you? You got anything you want to throw on that?
Well, to me, paranormal and normal are the same thing. Because there's so much weird that happens in my life on a regular basis. The whole idea of, having spirits in your home, being able to deal with these spirits, doing, whatever ritual needs to take place, dealing with students who have problems. I mean, it is as normal and day to day as anything. It's actually sometimes a relief and a good vacation when I actually go into the world and everybody's dealing with normal stuff. I went to Florida to visit my sister. It was 2 weeks of, nothing paranormal at all. And it was weird for me at that point. So,
right. Yeah. Some people might think paranormal is having a 9-to-5 job and
yeah, that would be paranormal for me. Other than that, I deal with it on literally a daily basis. So it's not it's I don't know, more of a term for muggles in my world. So right.
No, I mean, that's understandable. I would just say for me, like when I define paranormal to me, it's like it's the spiritual side of the realm. You know, it's anything that has to do with fun things like ghosts and goblins and aliens, cryptids. You know, like Bigfoot. You know, all of that stuff is what I just kind of lump it all in as paranormal. So whenever I say paranormal, that's what it means to me.
Can you go plug this in real quick?
So,
Lost audio. Give me 1 second.
we can hear you. All right, I'm gonna mute his mic. Oh, well, I guess not. Oh, I muted Stacy. Sorry. All right. So he muted. There we go. So Matt's got some technical difficulties. We'll work through this. We'll work through it.
You're looking kind of grainy. Or how's your bandwidth doing?
My bandwidth's probably getting eaten up a little bit right now. I'm sure we got a lot going on in the house.
Sorry about that new setup.
That's all right. Well, have technical difficulties. So all right. So moving forward, but paranormal, like I said, when people live in a house and they experience paranormal, again, it can be a variety of things. And I think for most people, you need to understand that, and I'm going to kind of use a little bit of what both of you said, it is a little bit something that's above normal or something that's just not normal to you. So if you're sitting there and, a glass sitting on your table falls over and kind of gets thrown off the coffee table, like that's when you have to determine. The first thing is, don't assume it's paranormal, first off. Always at this point, you just need to acknowledge, like, whoa, what was that? Then it's like, now is when you need to kind of start trying to figure out, was that paranormal? Now, a lot of people will make that mistake, and I don't know if it's just something that they want attention, but they will immediately be like, oh my God, I had a glass that tipped over and rolled off the coffee table, and it shouldn't have done that, and they immediately want that attention of people saying, oh my God, you're haunted and you got a ghost. But what do you think about just normal basic hauntings around homes? I mean, what is that the average typical haunting of a home? What does that look like, Stacy? What do you think that looks like?
Well, it's usually an attention getter. Typically the dead, they have to put forth a tremendous amount of energy to affect this world, and it's focused energy, and it's also elemental environmental conditions, being conducive to it. If they're in a point where they're agitated to the point where they're throwing things or pushing things around, it's usually a 3-alarm fire that's taking place, where they need to get your attention for some very important reason. That's when it's time to actually pay attention to what is the message being said,
right?
What is the information that is coming through.
And I'm gonna follow up on that too, because that's gonna be what we talk about right next. Matt, what do you think about the average haunting? What kind of things do you feel like people experience on average?
Well, typically in my experiences, it's usually knocking, usually pretty subtle. Obviously, I've had a lot of clients tell me all hell's breaking loose. They have something extreme going on, and when in actuality, it's usually subtle things that they just. I mean, it's dramatic. So of course, exaggeration tends to happen, but for the most part, it's just pretty. Like Stacy said, there's a message that needs to be broadcasted. They want to relay something, and the families don't know how to respond, or even businesses, they don't know how to respond. That's obviously an intelligent, typical intelligent, but you got your residuals and other things. But yeah, I mean, that's in my experience, that's it. It's really easy, basic stuff. It's just pretty vanilla.
Right. And Facebook user said, don't forget to mention scratching. And yes, there's definitely many forms of attention. Let me kind of break down. I don't really have anything to add. I think you guys covered what like a basic haunting, some of the things. What I am going to add is I'm going to add kind of the 4 main types of hauntings that people will experience. And one is intelligent. We also have residual, and we have like poltergeist, which I've always been torn on how the poltergeist is really defined, so to speak. But poltergeist is really a lot of objects moving and sort of non-intelligent behind it. But again, I've always been kind of that. It's been a little bit of a gray area for me. And then the 4th one is sort of demonic. Okay. And this one is a little more rare. A lot more people think they have demons or that it's demonic, but actually, and this is what I want to come back to what Stacy talked about with messaging, and then Matt backing that up, is messaging. When spirits are reaching out, a lot of people tend, and this is from my experience, they tend to confuse some aggressive messaging with demonic activity. Okay. But it does not necessarily mean that. So I'm going to flip flop back and forth and try to get, each of you to go first. But Matt, your turn this time. Tell me, what do you think about some of the messaging and what that means for clients with some of the messaging?
Well, the way I've always explained it to clients is think of, and no disrespect, think of it like a child. If these spirits are trying to get a message across, if they can't be
Wait,
heard,
are you calling me a child? I was like,
no.
I'm saying, he's like, no disrespect, but it's like a child.
Because I think of it, I tell my clients, it's just like a kid. If you ignore your kid, what are they going to do? If you got a 3-4-year-old, you're ignoring them, they want your attention. What are they going to start doing? They're going to start slamming things, throwing things, stuff like that. Same scenario. It's the spirits want to talk, they want to react, they want you to hear them, and I think sometimes they don't understand that we can't. Most of us can't. We can't. They can't hear. We can't see them, and they just get frustrated, and that's all it is. It's just a basic form of frustration. Usually, what I suggest is just pull out a recorder. Most of our phones have one. Just set it down. If you don't want to interact, just say, hey, look, I don't know what you want. I don't know what you need. Talking to this, I'll give it to the people who can help. And
yeah, and we're definitely going to cover some methods for sure here in a little bit, just to let people know, let you all know. We'll go into some more detail on how to do some of these things, and maybe even how to do it somewhat safely, if you will. Stacy, so messaging, what do you I know this was something that you brought up, so what do you feel about with the spirits and messaging?
Well, like you said, with the poltergeist scenario, I mean, that's the whole idea of a poltergeist is a childlike presence, and throwing temper tantrums and things of that sort. Now, people confuse, because of the movie Poltergeist, they confuse demons with actual poltergeist.
Right.
So those things are interchangeable. I've never come across the atypical Hollywood demon, that you see in the movies, and then the Haunting in Connecticut, and all of these Hollywood stuff. I've never come across anything like that. Coming across a spirit who is aggressive usually can be met with equal stern force, not antagonizing, but stern, drawing the line, planting your feet type force. They are not there to go to war. That's not what they want to do. They want to get their point across because for whatever reason, they're in the place that they're at because of something, a scenario that happened right before they died. Something's happening with a loved one. Something is very important that they need to communicate, and they're trying to get that across in the most expedient way. And a lot of times they'll even start creating scenarios where certain people you've never met before in your life are suddenly in your life because they have a talent to do certain things that help this spirit out. I've seen that a lot, where, somebody just comes into the picture because they've got a problem with a spirit that they needed to, get me involved, that kind of thing. And then after that's done, I never see him again. The spirits organize these kinds of things so that they can get their message out, because for whatever reason, information is critical to the afterlife. They know things that we don't because they see things that we can't, and vice versa. So,
right. And I think like intelligent haunting is really where you see a lot of the messaging and interaction. I want to talk a little about residual so people can kind of understand residual haunting. And Stacy, I'm going to let you kind of get into some of this with residual energies. And I'll let you kind of explain some of this to people.
well, there's many schools of thought on it, going all the way back to the Egyptians. They believed that we had a spirit, a soul, and a ghost. There were three entities within us, and the ghost is what leaves the body first, usually 3 days before death. Um, but in a scenario where it was sudden and traumatic, that ghost never actually gets to move on before the rest of it. So it literally tries to reenact that scenario of death over and over again to resolve itself, and it for whatever reason doesn't. Um, it's not intelligent. It's just the part of the body has the spirit, because everything in the universe has energy. It has information attached to it. Our bodies do as well. We're not just walking around in a meat suit. It actually has its own,
Right.
entity into itself, but it's not an intelligent one. It is an organism, like, a slug also has this energy, but it has no intelligence attached to it. We have an intelligent soul and spirit that, go where they need to go, but that ghost can be earthbound and stay over and over again, reenacting the same thing over and over again. Simply
Right.
because it doesn't know any better.
Now, Matt, I'm going to ask you, Matt, not so much to define it, but have you had experience in a residual haunting?
Yeah, I've seen a couple. Actually, the most recent one was last time I was in Gettysburg. As you know, Josh, Stacy, I'm not sure about you, but I'm from Pennsylvania, not too far from Gettysburg. And I see a lot down there, hear a lot of reports of them down there. I had a couple out in San Diego at the USS Midway. Pretty much anywhere that I found, just like what Stacy said, anywhere where there was any type of trauma.
It's on my bucket list.
Right.
I collect dirt from battlegrounds,
Mm.
and Gettysburg is a battleground that I don't have any dirt from. So I'm going to make my way there one of these days.
Yeah,
Well, we can definitely
got some
talk.
battlegrounds here too in Bristol.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Battlegrounds are sacred. It's holy ground. Human blood was spilt, and it's just as holy as, if not more so, than the entire land of Israel. It is human blood is the catalyst for a lot of different things, and battlegrounds are just I collect it.
Right.
For a lot of people.
Now, Matt, I wanted to follow up on that when you talk about that. So, how in your cases was you able to identify residual versus intelligent? How did you make that determination?
Just through solid investigating. I know we're going to be discussing that later. Just from the reports as well, when the clients say, every night at this time, or every 2 weeks at this time, or every month or whatever, as long as this timeline's similar, zero interaction, like you said, the best way I've always told people is it's like a DVD. You can yell at the actors all you want. They're not going to do anything. They don't know you're there. They don't care. So yeah, it's just through investigating in the reports.
Okay. Well, and that's pretty much how I've always done in similar results. Is usually when you start getting that repetitive results again, you're not getting responses the way you're thinking you're getting stuff, but it's not intelligent responses. So Tara says, what if you don't get any answers from spirits? Again, spirits can choose to talk. They don't have to communicate. It's you never know sometimes. And in fact, if you go look at my latest video out in the field, where I went to the Indian cave, you'll see where I did a dowsing rod session right in front of this cave where there was all kinds of trauma. We're talking like even a Wikipedia was about a rave in the cave that went bad and people died. Indians, there was murder there. Supposedly there was soldiers. They mined it for the saltpeter and stuff for the gunpowder. All kinds of stuff. I'm standing in one of the prime opportunities for a great dowsing rod session, but no spirits talk to me. I gave them 3 opportunities. You see it in the video. I show you guys. It don't always happen. It's not something. So sometimes when you try to communicate, they're just not there. They're just not ready to communicate, or maybe they just don't have enough energy. Who knows what it is? But the bottom line is they will communicate when they want to communicate or if they're willing to communicate. So I just wanted to use that as an example to show you, Tara, that there is times when spirits will not communicate, period. And then time there is. So, okay. So moving on, let's get a little bit into signs of demonic cases. Which again, I don't have a lot of that. A lot of people, they say, oh, demonic this, demonic all the time. Again, folks, you got to really do your investigations and try to get to the bottom line, because in some cases things can look demonic. I've had, Terrelyn and I have been to some places that could have been thought of as demonic cases and things like that, scratches and things, even scratching, like, oh, I got 3 scratches and things like that. But when it all comes down to it, it wasn't. It's just some spirits. And I think Stacy said this before. If you're a-hole in real life, you're probably going to be an a-hole in death.
Believe that.
So anyways, Stacy, signs of demonic activity. How much experience have you had in any of that, if you have?
I haven't had any real experience with confronting demons. Now, people like to categorize demons as being non-human or never human entities. That's not always the case either. I've dealt with higher level spirits that, like in Santeria and Palo, they're known as Orishas. They're actually more evolved and godlike, even angel level spirits that have never actually held human form, but they've taken us under their wing. They're protectors. They're ones that look after us because, well, we're like children to them.
Right.
They've never been human, but they're incredibly intelligent, incredibly powerful. They can do stuff in like what's known as a bata or a drum, where they can mount someone, which is a possession, and that person never knows that they were actually possessed. They can be in that state literally for hours, doing incredible human feats while they're under the influence, and then be completely unaware that they were ever possessed in the first place. It was really like blinking their eyes, and things moved. They were in one place and now they're in another place, and they're very confused because a second ago they were someplace else. They had no idea that they were actually mounted. And I've seen little old ladies with walkers get up and break dance who've been mounted. I mean, right. I've seen people cut themselves and instantly heal themselves after being cut while they were mounted. I mean, the kinds of things that the human condition cannot do on its own,
right,
is happens in these things. And that's why people go. They get information from these spirits, from these entities, to understand not only the world around them, but what's happening in their life, because they'll get individual readings, so to speak, from these spirits, from these mounts. And they get paid a lot of money just to do these rituals, these bata drums. So it's
now, Matt. Well, I'm going to let you touch a little bit on the demonic side. One thing I'm going to interject here is that I will say in there's kind of my 3 things that I personally have experienced as far as types of entities besides human. And one is I look at demonic, demon, as that. When I say demon, I personally define it as an evil spirit. And of course, I'll take it back to the times from the Book of Enoch and the ones that God had cursed, basically the giants and things like that, the Nephilim, the fallen that were, was condemned to roam the earth for eternity and forever shall be known as evil spirits.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've defined sort of as that demon, that workforce of Satan, so to speak. Now, I will say I also have encountered negative entities, the a-holes in the spirit world. And then the other thing I will say, and this is where I kind of feel like, where I kind of understand a little bit of what you're talking about, Stacy, is that there was one time in my Hales Bar Dam investigation, when actually not mine, but when I was with SRS Paranormal before that, we had encountered an elemental. And this was an Indian, the Native Americans that had that land where the Hales Bar Dam is. The chief had summoned this elemental to protect that land. And it wasn't necessary. It was the weirdest thing to encounter an elemental on the dowsing rods, because the dowsing rods were really kind of jittery. I really wish I had it on film, like on my thing. Oh my God, it was so cool. But like, it was like I had never, and it communicates differently. Like you can't ask it certain questions, and it doesn't respond to male or female. It was only certain questions that we could get it to communicate, but that's how we figured it all out. But that's how I found out we were communicating with an actual elemental. And this thing was so odd. It was the oddest communication I'd ever had on a dowsing rod session, but it was very like business-like. It had its specific sort of functions. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was there to do its thing. So it sometimes was interpreted as a demon, like demonic activity, but then it also has a protection type of feature as well. So I just found it really interesting. I've never experienced that in my life except for that one time, that one case. Pretty wild. But anyways, Matt, all right, go ahead and what's your demonic experiences, if any?
Well, I've dealt with, and this is speaking on the fallen sense, your definition, Josh. I dealt with a couple that were what we called early infestations, because a lot of people don't realize that when demonics, come into your residence or business, they infest it just like insects or pests. And I was unfortunate enough to run into early infestations. Now, they are, in my opinion, not anything that, unless you're certified, what you're doing, you're comfortable and have 100 confidence, don't mess with it, because they can get very dangerous. And I didn't feel confident enough to take my team in, but that's when you take certain measures and precautions and go the route you need to take. But yeah, I've only dealt with a couple, and I personally won't go do anything like a full-fledged infestation. Like I'm not certified. I'm not qualified.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So let's see. Aniga's family and ICU don't see me. I don't know. I don't know if that's ICU or not. I mean, I don't.
I see you. You don't see me.
I know, but normally it's like ICU, you see me. So
yeah.
I don't know if that's her or not. I don't know. So either way, welcome. You guys are always welcome in the chat. So, and if you have any questions for us, okay. So, now that we kind of talked about the different types of paranormal, now again, poltergeist, Stacy kind of covered that a little bit. So if you guys need to, you can kind of go back again. If you're starting to get a lot of objects moving, again, if you're experiencing these things. So what I want to do is start getting into some of the basics. So let's say you are an individual and you're experiencing something and you want to reach out. First of all, I'm going to say I'm going to pose the question to both of you: Is it a good idea for people that are amateurs, so to speak, like never had any experience dealing with paranormal? Should they reach out and do any kind of communication? Should they do these things? What do you think? I'll throw it out there. Matt, I'll let you go first on this one this time.
For me, it's all about comfort. If you're comfortable, at least giving it a shot. One of the basic things, like I said, is, a digital recorder. Most of our phones have them. If you're comfortable enough doing that, if you're comfortable enough just kind of finding out what's going on, by all means. But for me, if you're not, you need to reach out and obviously get a hold of somebody.
Yeah.
It's not just for safety. It's just at respect. Because I mean, if Aunt Sally's hanging around and she needs to tell you something, putting it off is just going to make things make her upset, and no one wants to get her upset. So it's never a bad idea to just check things out.
Stacy, what do you think? Good idea, bad idea, both?
Yeah, it really comes down to fear. If you're afraid, in this, you don't know what kind of spirit you're dealing with, which is part of the reason you're afraid. This is the unknown, which is always scary.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into it with extreme fear, where you're like, vibrating with panic, then no, because if you are dealing with something that's, a bit of an asshole, all you're doing is providing entertainment. You're a dancing monkey at this point that they get to play with. Bring in somebody who can actually come in with, clear eyes and a calm mind. You don't want to, feed into this thing if you're dealing with fear. If you're curious, go for it, because that's what it's all about. That's, part of the human condition. But you just can't be afraid, because that level of intensity and energy and whatever just feeds into whatever, a-hole may be in your house. So it really all depends on you.
Right. I say go for it, but make sure you come watch my videos first on the Everything Paranormal show on YouTube, because we can guide you the right way, which we're going to right now. We're going to help give you some guidance if you choose to do it. So I say go for it. But you guys are right. I mean, you guys are right in the sense that if you don't feel like, if you're not comfortable and you're afraid or something, you need to seek out somebody. Seek us out. We'll help you out. So let's get into a little bit of communication on some basic levels for people. There's all kinds of ways to reach out to spirits. And what I tell people, with every form of communication, you should open up the door and you should close the door when you're done. Okay? That's kind of the first and foremost what I tell everybody. If you do those couple things, most of the time, and I'm saying most of the time, you're not going to screw anything up. You're going to be able to contain the session. It's not going to get out of hand. Doesn't mean you're going to get rid of the ghosts in your house, but you don't want to leave an open session. You really don't want to open that door and then not close it. Okay? That's just me. Again, and I'll let you guys tackle that if you want when we talk about something. So, what is one of the most basic ways that you can open the door and talk to a spirit? First of all, the first thing you want to do, again, when you open the door, don't be rude. Okay. Don't be demanding. You can introduce yourself, say, hey, my name is Josh. I would like to, if there's any spirit that, or a lot of times what I like to do is I put a condition out there. I like to say, if there's any positive spirits that would like to communicate with me. Does that mean you're not going to get an a-hole from time to time? No, but in my experience, it tends to work. When I ask for positive spirits, I tend to get decent spirits. I don't tend to get a lot of negative spirits. When I ask for that, if I don't, and I just say, is there any spirits that would like to communicate? Then I'm opening the door up for a bigger possibility. Okay. So ask out there, and then of course ask, and then also instruct them on how you want them to communicate with the type of device that you're communicating. And I'll show you some examples a little later. Once you're done communicating, then you want to close the session. And again, it's that intent, right? You want to make sure you thank the spirits, thankful, be respectful, folks. Don't be a jerk. Say, just assume, and if you're doing a form of communication like a voice recorder where you can't listen to it right away and you don't know, just assume maybe they did talk to you, and so thank them anyway. Say, if you did communicate with me, thank you so much. And say, hey, I would like to end the communication session. Please go back to where you're from. You can do that. Just something simple. You don't have to make it complicated. There's no chants. There's no Latin chants. You don't have to go into some trance. There's nothing crazy like that. You can, if you have the intention, you can close the door and you let the universe know the session is done. Okay. Guys, you want to add anything to that? I'll let whoever wants to jump in on opening and closing sessions. Is there anything else that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I actually do chants and prayers and all of that when I'm doing seances and all of that misas. They can actually last for 15, 20 minutes before anything even starts, and it sounds more like a legal contract than it does actually a prayer. And in it you say, welcome all intelligent spirits. You're welcome here. We're glad you're here. But if you're not here for good intent, get out.
Right.
Get the F out now. And
right.
That's built right into the prayer. And then, you open it up and let them communicate through a mediumistic, intent, where you listen to not only what is being said, but the images and sensations and smells and all of the things going on to get these messages. And again, you're correct. You close it. And that's as easy as in a lot of the seance prayers, and in a lot of cultures too that do these misas. If you stand, clap your hands above your head, turning counterclockwise once and then clockwise once, anything that's attached to you falls off like a flea. So
right.
You're closing the session at that point.
Yeah, and we're going to definitely talk about some cleansing stuff too. I think, Stacy, you got some good ideas and some good suggestions for that as well. Matt, do you have anything you want to add on opening and closing sessions?
Well, first, Stacy, that sounds like a fun ritual, and I would love to see that, first of all. And
I can send it to you.
No,
I got the prayer written down.
Please do. The only other thing is, Josh, I'll just add to yours, is the main thing that I found with me is just be respectful. Be respectful of the spirits. Please, thank yous. Mind your P's and Q's. Don't be harsh. Don't be rude. Don't be demanding. Just show them respect. Now, if obviously you run into something that's a little more malicious intent, then stand up. If you're comfortable doing that. But for the most part, I just tell people, just have a genuine conversation. Ask the basic questions. Who are you? What are you doing here? And again, like you said, explain. If you don't even want to talk to them, we all have cell phones with voice recorders. Just say, hey, I'm Matt. I'm not comfortable talking with you. I don't know what you need or what you want, but this is my phone. It's a cellular phone. Just talk into that. It'll hear you. I will let somebody else listen to it. I'm not comfortable doing this.
Right.
And at least you're making the attempt. And most spirits will respect that.
Yeah, and that's all good advice from you guys. And yes, and I know, like Stacy, I know sometimes you are communicating, you're opening up some sessions onto like this really higher, bigger level. Sometimes, so it's like you're almost like open up like a business conference call compared to people that want to do like just a one-on-one little talk to their dead grandma. All right.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
We use misas and seances as a growth tool, spiritual growth, being able to communicate with the dead, being an assist as a medium in this life to the living. These things are part of our spiritual development.
Right.
And you don't suddenly wake up one morning and have superpowers.
Right.
It's one of these, just like playing the piano or playing tennis or whatever it is. You have to practice and create a muscle memory of
right.
what these things are, and you can only do it by doing it. So,
And I think too, what I would say is like if you just open up a basic communication session, I guess you could almost compare it to like the old rabbit ears, right? It's like sometimes a little snow, you get some stuff through, and probably the more in tune you are with the frequencies, and the more in maybe some of the rituals help you to get that deeper level and to get that broader communication channel open. That's when you maybe get more clear communication and more precise communication. So I think that's probably what you might be alluding to. Am I close on that? Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of things come into play because the human condition is always a hot mess. But learning what it feels like in order to have that communication creates that muscle memory to when it shows up again, you know exactly what it is. It's not something to be ignored. You can, take it and use it in context of whatever's going on at the time.
So when and talking back to the viewer, if you're starting this again and you're wanting to do your own communication, I do recommend it in the sense that I've run into many people that I talk to when they find out that I'm involved in paranormal. A lot of people love it. They're like, oh my God, like, ghosts and this and that, the TV shows, whatever. But they also always tend to be on the fence. Like they're not sure if some things are real. And that's what I tell people all the time. If as far as people that if they have a haunting, this is your chance to check out for yourself. I mean, that's how I became a believer eventually, was when I got my very first spiritual like EVP, like my very first in my own home, where I knew that there was no other influence, nothing around, no noises. I cut the power to my house, and me and Terry Lynn caught some amazing EVP for the first time, and we're like, holy crap, like this really is like there is something going on out there. And so that's another benefit to doing it yourself. So backing up again, I'm trying to keep it on a basic level for people. For step one is and Matt mentioned this, was cell phone, right? Use your cell phone. There's a voice memo recorder on most cell phones. Usually comes with the phone, or a lot of times you can download them in the App Store or Android Store, the Google Play Store. There's a lot of free voice recording type deals out there. And by the way, don't get suckered for a lot of the apps on the phones, like the ghost hunting apps. Just try to avoid some of that. We're going to give you some legitimate ways to try to communicate to some spirits. So, but that's the first thing you can do. The first easiest, probably accessible thing. That, or I'm going to talk about something else here in a second too. Another way when it comes to recorders, because I always tell people EVPs are a good way to go first. Okay, we're going to get into some ITC stuff, but remember, start small. Don't jump right into a spirit box. Okay, don't jump right into that yet, because again, you develop an ear for listening to that stuff. Don't worry about that. Don't stress yourself out. Listen to the EVPs first, like listen to the recorder. So the other thing is, now this one costs a little bit more money, but this is a Zoom H1N. It's a good one, but you don't have to get a good one. In fact, many of the digital recorders, the worst ones that you get usually give you some best results, because the high-end ones tend to filter out certain low-end noises or whatever. They try to clean things up for you, so you can lose some frequencies and stuff like that. So again, but this one's good though. This one does really good. But you can get yourself a little digital recorder. This is used for most people. They dictate stuff. You can do EVP sessions with this as well. So that's kind of some first kind of basic level stuff. Excuse me. As far as recording, now there's a couple other communication tools you can use, and we're going to get into some of that here real second. Stacy's going to have a part of that. Matt, what do you think about EVPs in general? Where do you stand with all that?
As long as you're doing an EVP session properly, I think they're great. I think they're a great line of communication. It gives not just the spirits a chance to say their piece or relay a message, but you can also hear. We were talking residuals before. You can get sounds. I've heard bells, cannons, shot fire. A bunch of different things. I think it's basic. Yeah, you're not doing your due diligence if you're not recording. And speaking of recorders, Josh, I don't know if I showed you this, but I actually found for like $10 on Amazon, little USB thumb drive looking thing, and it's a recorder. It does, I think, 15 hours. So you can just plug it right in, no software.
Yeah.
They're inexpensive.
Well, that's what I tell people. Like a lot of times, the cheapest little ones are some of the best ones. That's what I tell people all the time.
Here it is. I was trying to find it in my drawer, but there it is. Just little. I mean, I got a green screen.
I know. It's like
just a little USB thumb drive.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, just put it in your pocket and go. But yeah, like I said, if you're not recording, or I mean, you don't even need to talk. You know what I mean? Like we walked around and put a recorder in your pocket or hold it. You should, because you're missing out on some good evidence and even a message or something important.
Right, and we will definitely touch on that a little bit more here in a little bit about when you do investigations, like full on and some cross validation and stuff. Stacy, so I want to get into a little bit of another form of communication, one that's not always as traditional with paranormal investigators, and that is things like dowsing rods and pendulums and those type of things. So I figure I'll let you kind of talk a little bit about that, since you're kind of more on the occult side of things.
Well, okay. The spirits, like I was saying before, it takes a tremendous amount of focus and energy to affect this world. And the easiest, the path of least resistance is through us. We are the instrument in which they do things, because we are not only living, but we have an energy that they can utilize. And the dowsing rods, the pendulum, they create micro movements that we can't even detect ourselves that we're doing, that create motion in dowsing rods and in the pendulum and other forms of divination where they're actively using us. Now, if you want to scale it up where you're using, the knocking, they're directly affecting the environment of something solid. In order to do that, they need more than one person. Usually they do these kinds of things in the old timey seance parlor trick things, where you would have 7 people, minimum 7, sitting around a table, and the table itself would jostle, swivel, or even just knock. And you ask the spirits directly, 1 for yes, 2 for no, on any particular question, or the other way around. I mean, you set up the parameters at the session, what it would be, and spirits use the collective force in order to create that force. They can use the environment when spirits are very upset, angry, agitated. They try to affect the environment by using the heat in the environment. So you literally get a vacuum of heat. It's really cold, below zero kind of cold, where you're seeing your breath and your nose starts to run, and it's 80 degrees outside. But for some reason this closet is really damn cold, and you don't know why. Well, they're pulling energy out of the heat in the atmosphere in order to affect this world, this environment.
Yeah, I mean, and Terry Lynn said she wanted to let you know that she's been buying a bunch of pendulums lately the last couple of weeks.
Awesome.
I mean, seriously, I think I don't even want to say a money amount, but some of the ones, but they keep calling to her, like certain ones, and so that she said, yeah, people are gonna start thinking I'm a witch. I'm like, you already started down that path. All right, once you start down the dark side, forever will it dominate your destiny. So, anyways, yes, absolutely. ICU says, I have one pendulum, Terrylin, and it scares me because it's so accurate. Haven't used it in a while. And again, when you, okay, and this is something I want to cover as well, and this is important for people too, is that sometimes, like, so let's say you watch this video and you're like, oh, well, maybe I want to try a pendulum, um, you should, if you feel like something is maybe drawing you to that, it's good to have a connection with things. Like a pendulum, like I said, like even Terry Lynn in the chat was saying, like there's certain pendulums that she was drawn to. So those are ones that you're going to have the strongest bond, and you will get some amazing communication sessions out of. My dowsing rods, I've bonded with these things. I don't let anybody touch these. This is my energy, period. I've bonded with these. I have other ones, or if I want other people to experience dowsing rods, I'll just buy them a set. Okay. They're not expensive, but once you have your dowsing rods, like I said, there's just a bond. And so I've had some amazing sessions with these, and the more I use them, I have just great communication with these, and it's just something that has really stuck with me for the last year and a half since I started using them. So you want to pick something that calls out to you, or you can try some different things again, with the EVPs and those type of things. So, but we wanted to show you some examples. There's all kinds of different ways that you can communicate. I know some people use the Ouija boards, spirit boards. Essentially, they're about the same thing. You're pretty much opening a session. You're going to use a planchette, and you're communicating with a spirit. It's going to communicate and use the planchette. I personally think, in my personal opinion, I was always very much against Ouija boards. I think mostly because people that use Ouija boards, most of them are inexperienced and they just screw so much stuff up. But to me, I personally have always felt like the spirit boards were a little boring because they had to spell out everything like A, B, C. It's I know there's some quick words on there like yes and no and goodbye. You know what I mean? There's some quick words in there, but it's to me, it was always a little boring. Whereas I just like the yes and no questions. Let's get to it. Let's do the dowsing rods or pendulum, whatever it is. EVPs, spirit. I'd rather kind of get to it. I've always felt hey, Ouija boards to me were just always so slow. And then you got to use your head. You got to keep track. Did it go to a T? Did it go to a T? Was that an E? I don't remember. It spelled this out. I forgot where we were because I'm so astonished by everything. I forgot where I was with 4 or 5 letters into it. God forbid they're not from Constantinople or something. God. So, anyways, that's just my problem with the spirit boards. But the point is, guys, don't be afraid. You can use a lot of different devices to communicate. If you're really pressed, and I want to make this clear to the viewers, if you're really pressed, you can take a piece of string and a washer, okay, and you can just hold it, and you can establish. Now with pendulums, you want to establish what is yes and what is no, and there's different directions. Either you can get it swinging a certain way, so you want to ask the spirits to show you what is yes, and they'll show you the movement for yes. What is the movement for no? So anyways, and they also have you can take pieces of paper, you can write yes, no's, and and you can have it swing. I'm not going to go into detail on how to use all these different devices, but however it is, whatever device you want to use, you want to make sure you're being clear to the spirits and make sure they understand. When I use the dowsing rods, and I'm not going to hold them to where they move because I don't want to start a communication session. But normally I would hold them down here where the sleeve spins. But anyways, so I'm gonna tell them, hey, for yes, cross the rods, or for certain action, or use both rods and point to a place in the room. But I'm gonna tell them to cross the rods. I'm gonna tell them to straighten the rods. I'm gonna tell them they can leave them apart or push them apart for no. I'm gonna make sure to give them clear communication on how to address me with the device I'm using. whether it's a pendulum or dowsing rods, or even if you're using a K2 meter, which my green screen has kind of edited out some of it. But even the K2 meter, you want to make sure that if you're having it light it up, that you're saying, hey, can you light that up for me? Those type of things. You want to ask the spirit. And sometimes you even have to tell the spirit, hey, if you walk over near this and touch it, it will light up. Sometimes you have to tell them to go over and touch something. It's very important to give that communication. Hey, not that. Hey, speak into this. Speak into this device right here. Just walk up to it and speak into it. Let the spirits know how to communicate with the different types of devices that you may be using. Okay.
100%.
All right, you guys want to add something to all that?
No, that's right on the money. As far as MacGyvering it, there's like the washer or the a nut that's hanging from a string. It really comes down to your intent and your level of concentration. The instrument, as pretty as things are, like the pendulum or a crystal ball, even for divination, there's really no magic in that thing. It's all on you. And the thing in front of you, or the thing that you're holding, is a point of focus and getting you to focus on what is happening in the moment. And you can use a lot of household items to do that. You don't have to go out and buy the craziest, prettiest thing out there, unless that's what it takes in order to get you to focus.
Yeah.
And
again, I think when things feel that connection, when you feel a connection to a certain form of device, then use it, if that's what you're connected to. Now, Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add on communication?
Just two quick things. First of all, I just wanted to let you know I really miss Terry Lynn. I missed her in the chat. I don't know if you saw some of the comments, but that's awesome.
Washers talk Josh.
Yeah, there you go. I saw that pop up. But when you say about what calls out to you, the best way I've always described it is think of it like shiny syndrome. Or when you're in Walmart or in a store or whatever, and something just catches your attention, and it's like, "Ooh, I got to get that." It's like that in a sense when you go looking for any of these like pendulums or any type of equipment. It's whatever is right there that's giving you that shiny syndrome feeling. Give it a shot. Let that be first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And as far as Terry Lynn saying that she needs to stay off Etsy, I would also add Amazon to that.
I can't say anything. I love Amazon.
I know. I'm supportive and all that. So you should see her, like her girl room she has. It's sick. Okay, so yeah. All right. Now, there's really no other way to combat spirits, by the way. Like, don't get caught up in trying to combat them. You can't use a lightsaber. You can't do anything like that. Don't get stupid. Like, don't try to combat spirits. Most of the time, and I'm going to throw this out there and let you guys talk about. So when we were talking about messaging earlier, there's so many times when I'm doing a communication session, and you guys can see it on some of my videos. And I did want to answer ICU. She did ask me earlier, and again, we were kind of talking about stuff, but she asked me when I was going to get back out in the field when it warms up. But actually, I have been starting to go back out in the field, and we got the Indian Cave video up, and I've got some more we're working on doing. So yeah, we are. I'm trying to get out there. Period. So I'm not waiting until spring. But anyways. Paranormal princess. Yeah, I know you are, but that's okay. So messaging, that's what we're talking about. So a lot of times when I have done sessions, and they're on some of these videos that you guys see, some of my dowsing sessions, there's so many times when these spirits, they don't want anything. That's the thing. There's a bunch of spirits that don't want anything. They don't want help. I asked them, "Do you want help crossing over?" Like, and I don't help spirits cross over. I think that's between them and a higher power. That's just me personally. I don't feel like I'm the one that should say, "Yeah, go ahead." Yeah, go through that light. I don't know. That's me. But I ask them. I ask them if they want help for if that's something they're looking for. I ask them if they have a message for a loved one. Or a lot of times, either I get kind of the two most common things is one, they don't want anything. They just wanted me to know that they exist. They wanted to just put it out there. Like, hey, I was killed in a car accident. It's like they had to get it off their chest. The other thing is that they're just looking over some people. They're looking over some relatives. That's the two biggest things I've noticed whenever I do sessions, and that they're really just there to look over their loved ones for now. So that's the two biggest things. So a lot of times people are like, well, maybe they have an unsolved mystery and things like that. Yeah, I mean, that can happen. There is some people that I think even Stacy alluded on this before, where earlier about some people that have some unresolved issues, and that is true. That is the case. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at it percentage wise, it just seems like a majority of the ones I run into tend to really just want to be heard. So, Stacy, I'm gonna let you talk next on this. So how do you feel about the messages and spirit communication like that?
Well, on the topic of combating them, anybody who's not a professional, trained, or even amateur wise, no, you don't fight them, because they have not only the ability to see things that you don't, involving time. They can jump back and forth in time and know exactly when you're going to do something stupid. So you can slip and fall right onto railroad tracks or whatever. You just don't want to do it. Unless you have training, are aware of what's going on, you have the super sense in order to know what it is that's taking place with this particular spirit. Combat does not help you.
Right.
You can ask spirits to go to combat for you. That is a thing. But that's not what this video is about in any way.
Right. I know, but I just had to throw on my lightsaber. I don't know. Anyways, we're playing with toys, and it's always right here. So, but in any case,
crap around here to play.
Right. Hey, Spirit Seekers Paranormal. So y'all, you popped in there. So we talked a lot about communication and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some different paths of, and what I mean by that is, so if you're watching this and you're kind of like, well, this is a journey which you have to decide. And if you want to get involved in paranormal, you have to decide that. Obviously, nobody's going to force you to do it. I can tell you it doesn't pay. So if don't do it for the money. But no, I started out to answer some questions for myself. But along the way, it became a journey. It became a self journey. And I feel like for me, it became a very spiritualistic journey. And for me personally, researching the paranormal, it took me to some unexpected places that I didn't expect to be after almost 25 years, in the sense that it actually brought me closer to God, which was not something I originally intended to do when I started out. These are just things that I wanted to explain to some of that to you folks that are watching, that sometimes you never know where that journey is going to take you, but it's worth it if you want to try to figure some things out, but you may also learn some things about yourself, and there's reasons for that, right? But in any case, you want to decide how you want to start out. Do you really want to do a scientific style approach? Are you the type that likes to gather data and get information and all these things? Or Are you somebody that wants to get into more of the occult side of things? Maybe you want to get into some stuff like Stacy that, he's got some cool things, and maybe you want to get into some remote viewing or those type of things, and like we talked about some pendulum stuff, or shall we say witchcraft style stuff. Maybe that's a path you want to take, or maybe you just want to go in kind of casual and you just want to do some exploration of some spooky places, things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those paths. Stacy, I want to start with you. So let's say somebody really wanted to get into a path in kind of similar to some of the things that you get into and some of your philosophies. What would be a good way for people to start that journey?
Go to Udemy and check out my courses. I've got several on hoodoo and conjure, which are folk magic that is native to Louisiana and the South in general. It was brought over from Africa during the slave trade. It is not, doesn't require being initiated, doesn't require seeing a priest and a voodoo queen or anything like that. These are simple, what they call workings, that using things as simple as what's in your spice rack in order to affect the world around you. A lot of these are embedded in the Southern culture just naturally. You don't even realize that it's actually hoodoo that you're working with, but superstitions of all sorts have their origin in this. You can get involved on that level and become familiar with it. Once you start to become familiar with it, it actually has kind of a system to it that you can, get further in your needs just by following along with that formula. It's for me. I'm actually a priest of Palomayombe, which is an initiated rite path. It involves a lot of deep, dark Africa type, understanding of mythologies and patakis is what they call it. But you don't have to do that. You don't have, in order to get involved, all you need to do is understand how nature actually works with you. And stuff in your spice rack, you'd be surprised at how much power you've actually got. You don't even know.
Right. Now, Spirit Seekers Paranormal asked, does Stacy have a YouTube or website?
Udemy.com. If you go there and then do a search under my name, it's kind of German and hard to pronounce when you don't know what it is. It's Stacy Talish, but it's got a lot of stuff in there that most people don't even consider. Just spell that out. And even if you just type in Stacy, a bunch of courses will come up and you'll see mine. I have courses on remote viewing, hoodoo and conjure, and prepping, survival. So check it out. They're cheap.
Awesome. Yeah, and like I said, that's what I would say, guys, for a starting point, if you want to kind of go into that type of path. Matt, I'm going to let you take this part on. So, what if somebody wants to start getting into doing paranormal investigations, maybe even looking at getting on starting a team someday? What advice would you give them?
First of all, network, find another team, and maybe even tag along on a couple of investigations. And you're absolutely right. Both of you are. It's intent. It's whatever you want to do. Like you, Josh, I started in this field just as a hobby. I thought it was cool. I thought I've seen the shows, and like most, I had a couple of experiences, but I didn't, until I actually got involved, like in depth about it, I realized how much I can help. And it did bring me closer to God and brought me close in my religion and took me on a path that I had no clue. And now, this is what I do. I love helping people. And it's all a matter of what you want. If you are just looking to go out and check out some haunted locations, well, grab a couple pieces of equipment and have fun. If you want to, start helping clientele, like taking on, homes and stuff like that, do your research, do your due diligence, know what you're doing. The biggest thing I always tell people is we're only there for what, 4, maybe 8 hours, sometimes 12. These people have to live there. And you can really mess things up for them and make things worse if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You need to understand that it's not like the movies. It's not like the TV shows. The reason why it looks like they're getting a lot of activity is because you're taking a week long of evidence. They're there for a week, not one night. And
wait, Matt, are you saying that the Zach attack doesn't happen to you every single time? I mean, every time that Zach is on TV, he's being attacked by another demon. I can't believe that doesn't really happen in real life. That is weird.
Amazing, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you what, if I had a production company there, we'd have some fun. But that's a whole nother thing. That's one of my hot buttons.
Right.
But no, it like we said, it's all a matter of intent, and have respect and know what you're doing. And if you want to be, the weekend warrior, so to speak, and just go have fun, but have fun. But if you want to actually go into clients, make sure you know what you're doing, because these are people's lives.
Now, I want to add a couple things on this. One is before you go start your team, this is what I'm kind of piggybacking off what Matt says, and this is what I've told you guys in the past too. It's like, if you can, what I would say is, if you're new to this, try to find a mentor or try to find somebody that's a little more experienced to help you along the way. So I've got a tremendous amount of experience in going out and doing field investigations and being around it for many years. But when it comes to certain things in the occult, I turn to Stacy. Stacy's been a mentor with me, but he also leans on me a little bit too when it comes to field stuff. And we talk about these things. It's good to have a good partnership with somebody. And of course, I have some other people I confide in with paranormal as well. No matter what, don't ever get to that point where you think, oh, I'm too good to, consult with anybody else. That's stupid. I mean, this is such an unknown field still to this day. And again, that's part of networking. Having that network of people that you can kind of bounce ideas off of and say, hey, did you ever experience this when you're out in the field? Like I said, I have been doing this a long time, and then all of a sudden I come across an elemental. Like, I had never had that happen, like, ever, and it's probably something I may never come across another elemental. It's just one of those things where and I can talk to some people, and it seems like they're falling over demonic cases. Like, every time you turn around, they're like another demonic case. And for me, I'm like, that's like rarity, who knows? But the point is, if you're going to start a team, try to go out and sort of intern first. Go get on with a team, go out with a team, go out with an investigator. Soak in some of that environment, learn, see what they're doing. Also, maybe sometimes you can see, are they doing things wrong? Are they out there? Are they making some mistakes? Are they one of those teams that you're going with and they're showing up and they're opening sessions, they're not closing them, they're antagonizing spirits, right? They're badgering them, right? And riling things up, and then just be like, we're out, see ya. Maybe you're on that team and you didn't know. Pay attention to what's going on and use your head. Watch our videos on Matt's channel, Stacy's Udemy, take his courses, watch my stuff. We're going to help guide you to some of the right things that you can think for yourself when you go out with some of these people, but definitely get the experience first, because you don't want to go to a client's house and mess that up, because like Matt said, they have to live there. Okay. You leave and go home. And of course they can follow you home. So that's another thing. Don't screw up, because they can follow you home too. Mm-hmm. So you really want to go in with a little bit of experience. Again, if you want to do something at home, this is a good way to get started, is communication. Do some EVP sessions. Spirit boxes again, this is something I've always been on the fence about these things. Anyways, I've got 3, 4, like I don't know. I've got different spirit boxes. They're all, again, it's and there's a lot of that pareidoia, like you hear what you want to hear. There's a lot of tricks to things. Sometimes you can agree with somebody like, oh yeah, that definitely sound like a long word spread out over multiple frequencies. So hold on, I'm getting a text message through the ceiling. Says he'd be nowhere without me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading those.
Behind every great man, there's a woman rolling her eyes.
Well, yeah,
Mine's right here.
I throw you in there too. I say anyways. So, but yes, it's true. Like, no, my wife, when we first started our paranormal team, when we first got together and we, had realized that we both enjoyed paranormal, it's like I hadn't done official stuff up to that point. I had only like read things and kind of educated myself through reading and different textbooks and stuff like that. And I would go to some like haunted sites, with some buddies or something, goofing around, nothing like official. It wasn't until when I met Terry Lynn, like when we officially started to form a team and we got involved with ghost hunters and all that stuff. But in any case, but yes, honey, you're right. You were there. So, but if you want more credit, you need to get on the show again. Oh, touche. Okay. Anyways, no, man, she's awesome. She is my better half. So, all right. So, communication wise, though, guys, if you want to get involved in paranormal, I hope you learned a lot today. We're going to start kind of getting toward the back end of the show and start wrapping things up. I hope you guys watching this learn some stuff today, at least understanding some of the different types of paranormal, understanding what you may or may not have in your home based on what we kind of talked about. With the different types like residual, intelligent, demonic, things like that. But again, reach out to people if you're not sure. And I still would say if you are experiencing hauntings, and if anything seems a little aggressive, definitely reach out to experienced personnel first.
Yes.
Like I said, this is where sometimes things can be clarified, or you might think it's something evil and demonic, and really it's just somebody that's really throwing a temper tantrum, really trying to get your attention. That's all it is. They're just trying to get you to hear them. So okay. Let's talk one little bit. I want Stacy. We got a couple of things here I want to clean up with. One is cleansing. Stacy, I'm gonna let you be the one, because since you know a lot about different forms of cleansing, I want you to talk about different ways that people can cleanse themselves. Maybe something basic, something easy, to maybe something a little more complicated or on a bigger scale.
Yeah. First of all, the whole concept around cleansing is that we have an aura. We have an energy force that emanates from us. Actually, everything that has an electromagnetic frequency has this. Your cell phone, your computer, your car, everything has its own electromagnetic field around it. That aura is not just the electromagnetism. It's actually got information about you. Cannot be contained in this meat suit. There are several layers to this aura at varying frequencies. Some people can actually see it physically in color of what these auras are. The vortexes, like you would have, it looks like little hurricanes on your chest above your solar plexus, your eye, your third eye. These, what they call chakras, can get goofed up, and they get, they're vortexes. So anything that comes into them can actually screw up the flow, and that informational clogging can affect your daily life. That's actually how spirits communicate with you on a mediumistic level, through the third eye in the front and the back, because it is a north and a south pole. You also have one on the top and one where you're sitting right now. It's the north and the south pole. These vortexes get clogged with gunk just by nature of being in the world. People, you go into Walmart, and you ever notice that you go into Walmart and you just, everything starts to feel heavy, and you start dragging ass, just pushing the cart around Walmart. It's because all of that energy, all of that gunk from all these other people who've got issues of their own, leave it behind like garbage, and you just suck it up. You don't even realize you're doing it, and you've got all that on you. To cleanse yourself from this, you can as easily as take what's known as rose water or flower water, put it in your hands, and then move it over the top of these spots. Cleanse yourself, wipe it off, and then flick your hands off like you've got cobwebs on it. These things literally cleanse the aura, and you will notice immediately the clarity that starts to take place, like you didn't even realize that this was going on. This is spiritual hygiene in my world. Spiritual baths have the same kind of effect where, if you're just, somebody's throwing curses or works at you and your whole life is all doom and gloom, and you really think that the world is coming to an end just because you stubbed your toe, a spiritual bath can clean those negative energies off of you and keep you grounded in the real world, keep you focused on your task, which is moving through your life, that mission that you've been given since birth. A lot of these things can get in your way and, cloud your thinking. I mean, your car needs windshield wipers in order for you to see. This is part of being in the world, is being able to clear that stuff out of your life so you can move forward. Now, that spiritual hygiene can extend from not only your physical person, but your home environment. If you have a lifestyle where, you've got a spouse who's an alcoholic, who brings home the buddies all the time to get drunk and stupid, and they're doing all kinds of, they're hitting bongs all the time, and they're bringing negative energy into your home, that doesn't leave when they leave. It stays in your house. Cleansing your house from that sort of thing will prevent other things from manifesting that you may not. And it's a snowball effect.
Right.
These things, like attracts like. If you've got a lot of negative energy around you and a lot of negative energy in your environment, negative assholes are going to start, spirit-wise, are going to start sniffing around.
Right. And we got MJC Paranormal pop in. He said, "What's up, Matt Barron? Much love, brother." So it's good to see you in chat. And like Terry Lynn says, very interactive show. Of course, we are toward the end of it, but hey, we do this every Thursday. So, but a couple other things too I want to add on that. Matt, I'm going to give you a chance too if you want to talk a little bit about closing and cleansing and stuff like that for maybe some of the stuff you do. One thing I wanted to also pass on, like little things too, like if you do decide to do a pendulum, one thing you can do is cleanse your pendulum. There's some things you always kind of want to research each thing that you do maybe before you use it as well. Don't just pull up, although you can pull up my video, but ask, for sure. Just make sure, because again, I'm not giving you step by step. I'm just kind of giving you some overall things to really think about. But you want to cleanse, like, we have a selenite crystal that we can use to lay some of our pendulums and things like that on to help cleanse that. It's a cleansing stone. Very positive energy. Also, like dowsing rods. Whenever I'm done using them, you'll see me do this. A lot of times I'm cleansing that energy and sort of resetting that as well. When you close your EVP sessions, make sure you close that door, let them know the communication is done. And if you can burn sage, make sure you burn the right sage. Make sure that the sage stinks. That's the best thing that Stacy's always told me was, hey, if it stinks for you, then the spirits don't like it. If it's the good smelling sage, it's not going to affect the spirits. So remember that as well.
White sage, brown sage.
They don't like
sage is the sweet smelling stuff that everybody buys. The brown sage, which smells like ass, is what the Native Americans use in order to banish spirits from the sweat lodges. So if you want to get rid of stuff, use the brown sage. If you want to bring stuff into your house, use the white sage. It's that simple.
There you go. So, but go ahead, Matt. What do you have? Did you want to add anything to the cleansing type rituals? Or something that you personally like to do?
Well, I typically close out, like we stated before, saying a thank you to the spirits, whoever spoke with us, whether we heard them or not. And then I say, look, you're not invited back in my vehicle, my car, whatever. You're not welcome to follow me. Then I usually follow it with a prayer, asking for, comfort for myself and protection and all that good stuff. And I just close it out and pray for the spirits as well. And then believe it or not, I switched to sage. I actually use brown sage to cleanse myself, my energy, make sure everything's feels good. I feel good. I feel positive. And I do the same with all my investigators, anybody who was involved. If that the clients, I offer that for them as well. And I do the same with my equipment. And I just basically leave the same way I came, with respect. Never end on a negative.
Never end on a negative. That's always good advice, I think, right? For just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think, guys, we covered a lot of stuff. There's so many little things, and this is kind of drives my point home that if you're watching this again, hopefully this gave you some kind of new starting point or some kind of idea of how to start or where to begin, things like that. And if you have, but as you can tell, there's a lot of little nuances sometimes with different things. Don't let it intimidate you. A lot of times there's no real right or wrong way to do some of these things, really. Again, like you've probably picked up on what Stacy and what Matt said, there's a lot of intent, right? Mm-hmm. So if your intentions are good, if you're, open in that session and you have that intention, again, you might mess up. It's part of trial and error. Just remember to open and shut the door. Have those intentions, maybe you said the wrong thing, whatever. It happens. I do it all the time. I do it on live. I got a live show. I say the wrong things. Even when I'm out doing investigations and even when I'm filming and I can pause it and retake, sometimes I don't. It's like, I just worded that wrong, whatever. It sounds stupid, but whatever. I just leave it in, whatever. There's no sometimes a real right or wrong way. The spirits understand your intention. They pretty much know what you're getting at. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Guys, I'm going to give each of you a chance. I know, Stacy, you're pretty much regularly co-hosting with me now, but I want to give both of you guys a chance to shout out, let people know, anybody you want to shout out, thank, say hi to, anything you got upcoming in the future, anything like that. Go ahead, Matt. We'll let you do that first.
Well, first, I want to say thank you to you, Josh, and Stacy for letting me come on tonight. I had a blast and nice speaking with you guys again.
Yeah.
I just want to say, anybody wants to look me up, Facebook and YouTube, Paranormal Consultant, 2 weekly shows, Wednesdays and Fridays. We've got a great audience and a great community, and seriously, network. It's a great place to,
right?
Yep, right in central Pennsylvania. And actually, now that we're at the end here, Stacy, just want to let you know, September 26th, I'm hosting an event. It's a 2-day event. 26th, we're just kind of hanging out, meet and greet type thing. 27th, we're going to Gettysburg.
Nice.
So all the details are there on Facebook if you want to tag along.
I'm not on Facebook. I hate Zuckerberg like you wouldn't believe. So I'm not on Twitter or Facebook or any of that.
Well, the only
place you're going to find me is on Udemy or on Josh's show, really.
All right. Well, I can give you all the details, or we can network somehow.
Excellent. Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, I want to Josh give you a shout out, and Stacy, you as well. You guys do an amazing job.
Well, thank you. I just try to pass on my knowledge. Again, I try to look at it just like I told you guys, you should try to find some kind of mentor. So I try to look at people that watch this as maybe I'm helping to mentor them. And sometimes I have guests that come in there, they ask questions. Sometimes people come in chat. sometimes they offer advice, and they offer things that's worked for them and stuff too. So it's really a cool another form of networking. That's why I like having an interactive show. Stacy, what do you got going on? Is there anything you want to throw out there at the end here?
No, I actually plugged myself inconveniently in the middle of the show with the courses. But if you didn't catch that, it's on udemy.com, is udemy.com, and then just look up my name, and it will pop up all of my courses that are available. I'm the only one that teaches remote viewing, so you can do it that way. There's a lot of people that teach tarot card readings on Udemy. How to do the dowsing. They teach that as well. There's a lot of people who teach the spiritual things on Udemy. And unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of people teaching how to do paranormal investigations.
Right.
Now, I'm wondering if that would be something that,
I know.
want to do, teach paranormal investigations. They could do some teamwork by picking the cream of the crop out of their own students.
I know.
Big team doing that.
I know. I'm working on it. I am. And Minnesota Spirit Hunters, thank you for popping in there. Love back, because I love from Minnesota Spirit Hunters. Minnesota rocks. Awesome. Yeah, I had family that lived in Minnesota. A little bit Minnesota. I'm from Michigan, south of Detroit area, south west. So yes, MJC rocks, guys. Really good. I appreciate you guys popping in the chat. Definitely come check us out every Thursday night. Also, let me get my sponsors out of the way. So above me, you can see up here Paranormal Underground magazine. If you don't get it, go get it. Go to paranormalunderground.net. Tell them that Josh sent you. You're going to get a year free. And I'm telling you, every first of the month, you're going to get an email. It's going to have a PDF file, high resolution, full-on magazine. And it's got all the paranormal stuff in there, all kinds of great articles. And some of them written by Bob Fountain, who sadly, Bob has not been able to make the show tonight. He's really under the weather. I have talked to him. He's had some medical stuff going on, and he's had some medication, and he was trying to stay up for the show, but he said if he wasn't in the chat, he probably fell asleep because of the medication. So, Bob, please get well. We miss your brother, but he is one of the writers and contributors to the Paranormal Underground magazine as well. So again, great guy, and he's got some great information. We've had him on the show multiple times. Also, I want to give a shout out to Paraflix. Guys, Paraflix is a streaming platform that you can pay. It's like $4 a month or something, and it's all paranormal content. I have a show on there called Para Explorers. It's got one episode. I feel bad because we haven't filmed anything since the summertime, so one episode's been sitting there for half a year. I apologize, guys. It's been a rough second half of the year with the Couth, all the pandemic stuff, all the bad things going on. It's just been rough and makes people like myself who work 2 full-time jobs hard to get out there. When you get little bits of time to do things, it really makes it hard to do that. And if you watch the Para Explorers, I accepted the paranormal challenge, and I completed the first episode. So now the Para X is waiting on me to agree to continue the next phase. So I'm trying to get there, guys. I'm trying to get there. We are looking at, accepting and seeing whatever Para X has in store for us and sending us to the next location.
It's a great episode, though.
Huh?
It's a great episode, though.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, I'm glad you got to see it. So, yeah, I love it. So we'll see with Para X where Para X is going to send me next, and maybe my wife Terry Lynn, who I need to have with me this time, hopefully, because on the first, not to spoil the first episode, but I got sent alone, so that was not cool. Especially with the incinerator room. But anyways, guys, go to Paraflix. Go to Paraflix. Check it out. I also got a few short movies on there. short videos. It's also, I have them on my YouTube channel now too. But guys, we do this every Thursday night. Sometimes we have extra people come on. Sometimes we just have, topics. And there's some days we get so involved in you guys in chat that that's all we really do is just kind of riff on things brought up in chat. So guys, but yes, if you go to Paraflix, if you have Paraflix, I said go watch, look up Para Explorers. That's my episode. That's going to be my series. Follow that. But anyways, guys, love it. Love the topics. You guys have been great guests, co-host guests, whatever you want to call it. I love it. And love you guys out there. And remember, we'll see you next Thursday. And we'll remember, seek the truth. See you next time.
Peace.